When the Wesleyan Church decided to start its own seminary, we saw this as a real opportunity to do something different than what was traditionally done in ministerial education. Thanks to a world-class faculty and the strategic use of online technology, we are actually seeing that approach work at Wesley Seminary.
Having been in ministry since my early 20s and now that I'm 50, the reason I'm in seminary is because of the online opportunity that provided. Could not quit being a pastor or leave a family to go to school. And so it opened a new door that made it possible for me to actually get a degree while doing ministry. And not only that, but the courses themselves go alongside of your ministry and help you with not only the church you're in, but your personal growth, development, family, covers every aspect of it.
At Wesley Seminary, we offer a variety of degrees to serve the entire church, from lay people to career ministers. The Master of Divinity is 75 credits and can be done online or on-site.
Alongside the curriculum is a spiritual formation track, challenging you to continuously grow deeper in your walk with Christ. We also offer the entire Master of Divinity contextualized for Hispanic ministry.
Este programa viene como respuesta a muchas oraciones y responde a lo que es una necesidad que existe en los Estados Unidos. Las oportunidades para líderes eclesiásticos obtener una maestría en divinidad en su propio idioma, y el Seminario Wesley es la primera que ha logrado lanzar un programa de este nivel y hacerlo primordialmente online.
Our Master of Arts of Ministry is just 36 credits and can be done online. With concentrations in leadership or children, youth, and family ministry, it is beneficial both for high-caliber lay leaders as well as professional ministers. We are proud to offer a version of the MA in partnership with 12 Stone Church.
We think the genius behind this degree is the partnership of the seminary professors and the 12 Stone pastors.
If you need to bridge the gap between your master's degree and the qualification for a doctorate of ministry, we offer the Master's in Practical Theology. To resource ministers and lay people in a variety of ministry settings with limited time and financial commitment, we offer 3 certificates addressing relevant issues the church is facing today.
As a seminary founded by the Wesleyan Church, we offer 2 special benefits for Wesleyan ministers. The ordination track of the MDiv allows you to complete all of the initial ministerial student requirements in the first year and completes all ordination requirements during the course of the degree.
If you are ordained or are seeking ordination, our degrees are the most affordable in the world.
Wesleyan ministers receive $200 off each credit and can receive additional tuition reimbursement through the Wesleyan Loan Grant.
Here, Wesleyans can obtain a degree at a discount of nearly 65%.
This program is helping me to do ministry well right where I am right now.
Cory Doiron, how are you today? You good?
Buddy.
I'm doing very good, very good. It's good to be with you both and everyone viewing.
That's awesome. I want to comment on this. I don't know if you caught Alex Mandura's session a little earlier, but his beard is very academic. Your beard is very homeless.
Yeah, so. I did catch his. It was an incredible session earlier, and I do promote his beard growth.
It's endorsed.
Your beard is oiled and fluffed and ready to go for this, right?
It is ready. I oiled it about 30 minutes ago, just in time.
Just for this.
Yeah, that's good. It's got a nice shimmer with the lights. So, all right, hey, let's jump right in because we've got just a little bit of time here, and this is going to be good. Alex mentioned this earlier, and I think it's really key that churches are seeing a growing sense or a growing love of liturgy from younger people. And so what do you think that means? Like liturgical things that are, maybe people would think that's from an older generation. What do you think about that means for service elements like hymns, corporate confession, the Eucharist, responsive readings, etc., those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think, and I hate to paint like a broad brush of all young people, but I think there's definitely a growing group of young people that are desiring a connection with something bigger than themselves. And I think that's where we see old music and liturgical elements. It helps you feel connected to generations previous to you, generations no longer living, a faith that is way deeper and digs deeper than what you're even experiencing today. And I think that's why we see even, all the way back to the early church as we look at sacraments and that Christianity has been practicing these things forever and ever. And so, and at the end of the day, I think young people want to be connected to something genuine, right? And whether it's genuine relationships, social justice has this like genuine peace to it that we see a lot of people get connected with. And I think all of it is just this desire for a connection to genuine community, both flesh on flesh community, but I think the community of faith at large. That it's not just about them or their city or their specific mission, but this greater mission of the gospel moving forward that has been moving forward for thousands of years.
Now you find it within worship, I mean, talking about liturgy and things like that, as a worship leader, not me, you, and being on the platform, but also pastor, and we'll talk about this in a little bit later, but church planner and so forth. Worship can be polarizing. It can be very political, just to be honest. And so dealing with types of music and what song and all that stuff, forming a team. When you talk about young people, and even getting young people like on a stage, that's formational. That's a formational time of investing, of discipling, of realizing that it's not about you, it's about God, the ego, all those things that even young people deal with. How have you dealt with those issues?
Yeah, I mean, in my most recent setting, I was a part of Fountain Springs Church, and we were a growing church, and we would definitely be in the style of church where we were definitely pushing the production and the excellence level in what the actual on-stage product is, and continued over my time there, and I led us in that and pushing that forward. Created a challenge then when we want to get young people involved in the service. The reality is that a 12-year-old kid probably isn't going to play guitar as well as somebody who's been playing guitar longer than that kid's been alive, right? And so you walk through all of this, and what we found is that we began to just create standards, and we just became really clear with those standards with young people. And it really began for me, and I think worship leaders and those of us that are in leading in these like high production churches. If we're honest with ourselves, all of us are doing what we're doing today because someone gave us an opportunity when we were 12 and 13 and 14 and 15. Yet I'm seeing a trend in a lot of worship leaders where we have an unwillingness to then pass on that mantle, maybe because the pressures of the job, but I think we've got to kind of wrestle with that and deal with that. And so for us, I just began, even just on a personal level, it's not in my job description to work with the student ministry band at our church, but I'm also a member of this church, and I'm a part of this church just as a person in the congregation, and I decided personally I wanted to invest in there because that's why I am where I am today. And so we began raising up students, and we held our student band to the exact same standard that we held our adult band. And what's been crazy is our students have responded incredibly, and where we've had 4 or 5 students that have really owned their role in the music ministry, and have worked really, really hard to get those standards. And now on a weekend at Fountain Springs Church, you see students all over the stage in tech booth, and it's not because we think it's cute or it makes us look good. It's because they're meeting the same standards the adults are, and they've worked really, really hard to get there. And so that's been really, really cool to watch that unfold, and then see those relationships begin to develop between our students and the adults in the band, and our students and the adults in the tech booth, to the point where there's these natural mentoring relationships happen that we haven't programmed. They're just happening on their own because they're doing life together and doing ministry together. And so that's what we're experiencing, and that's what we've been working through and seeing great fruit from it. We did this student takeover. We saw Elevation Church do it, and we said, let's do this student takeover a few years ago. It'd be a good opportunity for the supporters of our church, people that are giving and serving week in and week out, to kind of see what's happening on a Wednesday night. And we really approached it like a feature. It was like, okay, well, let's just feature the student ministries. But what happened was our students it wasn't just a feature, they ministered to our congregation. And we had so many adults of all generations walking away from that service going, that was incredible. Like, that was amazing how the students led us to Jesus today. And from that moment, from that day, we saw a huge increase in students serving all over our building. So now on a weekend experience, we've got students parking cars and students greeting at the doors and students running slides. We got a 15-year-old kid that is one of our front of house techs, and he's one of our best. We've got a 15-year-old kid that's one of our worship leaders, and he's one of our best. And so it's been really, really cool to watch that unfold now as it's really come into a regular piece of our culture of the weekend experience.
So let me ask you this, Cory. This part of this question comes from a book by Rick McKinley called This Beautiful Mess that I read years ago. And he talks about the kingdom of God in the book. It's like Practicing the Presence of the Kingdom of God is the subtitle. And he talks about how at their church, they want to be careful when they put children and students on stage, that they put them on stage for the right reasons. And so the question that I had was how, and you're talking about kids being on stage right now. So he talks about children, you're talking about students. How can churches keep from putting children and students on stage simply because they look cute so mommy and daddy can get their picture or talk about them on Facebook, and instead put them on stage so that they can engage and lead adults in worship?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is it's including them in the regular capacity of things and the regular movement of things. You know, we did our student takeover that was all student led. But to me, that wasn't the win of the event. It wasn't the win of the weekend. The win of the weekend is that now our students are filling in spaces in our volunteer team every single weekend that maybe an adult filled the week before and an adult will fill the next weekend, but that weekend it's a student. So they're a part of our church. They're not this like side project or this separate ministry or this like, I feel like a lot of youth groups and a lot of churches that I've experienced, they almost run like a nonprofit that the church is running on the side. We've worked really, really hard at wanting to integrate our students into the regular run of our ministry. Our students don't think of our church like their parents' church. It's their church. They're a part of it every single week. So it's not just doing features. You know, I think there's a role for that. I think sometimes doing the feature might help you excel into something, but if the end game is just to feature them, or the end game is just for them to be cute, in Rick McKinley's words, then I think we're missing the game altogether. That's not the point. It doesn't really move us forward. It just gives us a good feeling on one weekend, right? So we've really tried to integrate them and sell that to our students and our adults and our parents, our youth leaders, and then all of the people in our congregation that maybe don't interact with our students regularly, but still value that as a part of our church. So
cool. Well, as you know, we have the chat room open, and a couple questions are coming in for you. I know we just have a few minutes, so this one actually comes from Sweden. It's made its way over to us.
You're with us. I love it.
Yeah. So here's a question, and it says, we find that a lot of young people here are seeking mysticism. If they don't find it in the church, they look for it in New Age movement and other places like that. Do you see something like that happening in your location in the United States, or where you're located, and where you're heading to as well?
Yeah. You know, I don't know if this answers the question directly, but I think there's a bigger conversation to be had. But I think for a lot of us in our generation, and Matt and I talked about this a while back, this idea of loyalty that a lot of my generation has missed in the church, and because our parents got divorced and our pastors had failures and our presidents had failures, we don't naturally feel loyal to leaders or each other, and so we like to stay in control of our community. We like to, and I see it in myself. You know, like so often, you know, a leader might make a mistake in my eyes, and my first reaction is to want to write them off completely, right? So I'm 30 years old, so I'm in the middle of that kind of generation, and I want to write them off completely, and then I have to catch myself as that being a natural instinct of my own. And again, this is why I think the return to liturgies and the Eucharist and the sacraments is so interesting, because these things are about submission to each other, yet I think a lot of young folks are being attracted to these things because they feel connected to something greater, but when it fails, we're also the first ones to exit and take off, right? Where the generation previous, I feel like they understand loyalty, and we really need that kind of loyalty education, I guess, from that generation previous. So you know what, like this loyalty piece is a really important piece of our worship time. It's a really important piece of these liturgies and these sacraments, and we got to learn that from each other. The beauty in, you know, I should say the beauty, but the win in mysticism is that you remain in control. And so as soon as mysticism fails you can just move on to something else mystical. And so I think we've got to wrestle with that. And I think everyone in my generation, we've all got to wrestle with that we probably aren't very naturally loyal And so when we latch onto things, it can't just be because we want to control our own faith and our own outcome. There's got to be some sort of loyalty and submission to each other in this process of faith. And we see that all throughout the scriptures, right? So.
Awesome. Cory, I feel like this could go on forever, and so unfortunately we're out of time, but this has been so good. So thank you for coming on and sharing. You are headed out to go plant a church in Portland, Oregon, one of the most unchurched places in the country. And so your marketing for it is Supportland, which is brilliant.
Yes, yep.
It is genius. And so anyway, we want to make sure that, to let everybody know so that they can be praying for you as you go out. You're going to be on site in April?
In April, yeah, we moved in April.
Very, very cool. Hey, tell the world where they can find you on social media, and if your beard has a separate social media account, let them know where they can find your beard on social media too. That's right.
Well, if there's any social media out there for my beard, I'll let you right now. They're fake, okay? And so there's a lot of...
They're not verified with the blue check.
Yeah, it's not verified. However, I do have some other unverified accounts that are my own. So I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I have a website where I blog, and all of it is just my full name. It's Cory, Cory, Doiron, Iron. So how you pronounce that last name, I'm not sure, but it phonetically is Cory Doiron. You can find me at .com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Those of you that are Snapchat haters, don't tell, but I'm all over the internet.
Very cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Let's pass it over to Tony and Heath, and they're going to tell us what's next.